All right. Yeah, could be worse. Yeah, if you want to have some information on that, I'm more than happy to give you pointers outside of class. Again, it's one of the best things that can happen to you in the software context. You won't probably make business with it. Golf is probably better for this. But for the folks here with biology background and all that, you gotta do that. It's a completely different world underneath there. Fun fact, I actually spent Sunday morning at 60 feet. I basically hurricane and everything is packed. Classes are canceled. I rearranged my schedule for classes. Let's chill out at 60 feet. Beautiful. All right. So, for the next 15 minutes, 20, this is super important. I looked at this. This is not anymore teaser. This is mission critical. When we talk about the evolution of urban space and regional development, we need to understand a few financial and economic concepts. Yeah? And one of the classic concepts that come to mind is this German guy called von Thünen. I have a slide on this later. But before that, we're going to talk about the mechanics of markets. Yeah? So, all the other factors, it's nice to have. We just had hazards. Well, in real estate, we're talking about absorption rates, vacancy rates, depending on the markets. You want to know what's going on. Yeah? It's a supply-demand issue. All right, I know, it's 8:30, and he's talking microeconomics right now. Yeah? In short, this is our demand curve. Yeah? In short, depending on our utility functions and all other simplistic thinking, is we could have different prices with different quantities. Yeah? That's how your apartment market works as well. You have different quantities available in the market. We just learned that the main on Las Olas is dropping 300-something units. Yeah? If you know that this is coming in 2 or 3 years, you can react on this. They made their decision to build this and size this financially based on current numbers and ideas how the market will converge. Yeah? So, sketching time. I have a slide, but if you actually draw this, it helps to understand. If I find my pieces. This is fairly short and fairly cool. Alright, so I'm going to write this guy down again. Von Thünen. There are different spellings available, and you will see this guy coming up with different ideas. But the fundamental idea is, this is before refrigeration did exist. Okay? As in your truck has ice or an AC included. I'm not kidding. Put the phone away. There is at least one question on the exam that builds on this. If it's not a midterm, it will come in the final. Because this is really important. Because all the sessions after the midterm are built on this idea. And I know, hacker's game, but right now, it's real estate game. So, fundamental idea. Let's think about distance. Yeah? We're here downtown. And think about the idea of, how do we call it, economic rent. Yeah? Rent. This is not necessarily rent you draw from a tenant. That's the economic term for that. That's money you will make. Yeah? So, the argument here was then from Thünen, that he's saying, wait a minute, I have different ideas how my demand and supply will look. Yeah? And fundamentally with the idea of transportation is a factor that will change my decision. Yeah? And my cheat sheet is here to remember which of the uses I'm actually drawing. Yeah? Very short, the idea was residential. I'm basically saying big city itself draws people with its functions. Yeah? And then we have other functions out there that are part of the city life or support system of the city. And they basically said, you know what? Let's do this. We might actually have like dairy farming. Yeah? Refrigeration doesn't exist, however, was limited. All the dairy products have to come from close by. Yeah? There's no cheese from Rome flown in a helicopter or in an airplane. Yeah? Rather close by. Then we also said, well, maybe you have something like wheat or grazing. Huh? Wheat and it's in the far end out. Cattle farm far away. If you look up at old maps from southern Florida, Miami area, Miami, something, big street, nothing. Everglades has changed. If you look at that kind of pattern, at some point, if this is the coast, and you're looking north to south, that's Miami, at some pattern, Everglades. And then Kendall and others occur and grew because transportation changed and subcenters built. So that's part of that. All right, so the complicated part of this theory is where to draw the dashed line. If I have residential, here residential. With moving out, increasing distance, what does this point mean? At this point, dairy and residential are even in the potential rent they would draw if I count this as distance and price. Dairy here is higher. Yeah? So I can actually go down and say, you know what? I drop this. This will be residential. Huh? Residential demand is not satisfied all completely here. If you look at how much rent I can draw as a land market. Yeah? Using the same pattern. Going this way, going this way. This is my next transition point. That would be then dairy. Following this pattern, follow the top. I don't jump in the bottoms here. Following the top, end up here and here. All right, so this could be wheat. And then I get crazy. Do you understand how we got those dashed lines? Yeah. Huh? We found that trade-off point, not to use equilibrium, trade-off point, and draw this down. So what's the beauty of geometry? I have a point here, I have a distance here, and put this in space, I can draw a circle. close, circle. If I have this, if this is a line, I give you a line, you hold this line here and here, 10 feet, you can run a circle around me. Yeah? So, if I do this, stand here and say, well, north, south, east, west, yeah? I get something like this. You can draw this as quarter circles. Here again, not these lines. Yeah? This one that drop. And so on. With the assumption that certain transportation costs are fixed from them, to make this model a replication to simplify the real world, make this understandable. And then you can say, well, you have different patterns to visualize this. All right? That almost is 200 years old now. Still works with modifications. What we call this in real estate nowadays, because dairy farming and wheat farming, grazing might be a little bit too antique. We call that a big rent curve, big rent model. Works the same way. No? But now I'm looking here at different objects like retail, office, and residential. Depends on the market, depends on your location. The pattern is the same. Distance from the center is increasing. Yeah? This is the office price as an example, as rent. Economic rent here, office price here. Fairly easy to compare. Yeah? Shopping zone, commercial office zone, residential zone. A classic example of central business district, and then you move into residential and suburbia. This is one of the examples of growth models we have seen in the last 50 to 60 years. Why? We try to understand what's going on in regional and urban development. If we understand this, we might be able to predict our markets for the next analysis we need to do. All right? This is fairly short in the book. Strongly recommended. If you understand the idea that with the increasing distance away from the city center, you have different transition zones between the rent models of your land uses, and you do remember where to do those dashed lines, piece of cake. Challenge me to express it in personal words. Not like here, Wikipedia showed me this one. For any of the exams, I encourage you guys to sketch this. It's a different learning experience than to look at it on the computer screen. All right. Well, want to hear more about economics? Beautiful, beautiful stuff now. There's this one accountant called Ebenezer Howard and his Garden City. In 1902, this guy writes a book, self-publishes the book, and believes that the city itself needs to be reinvented. This guy is in the Greater London area, UK, as in 1902. Believing as in, the town is miserable, the countryside is beautiful, let's pair up the town and country. And he draws this diagram with magnets. If you have time over Thanksgiving, it's a book like 80 pages. It reads beautiful. It's like a Harry Potter for urban redevelopment. This guy tells you how many pounds he wants to make with how many folks. We talked about ground lease earlier today. You rent your building in that town. You're a shareholder in that town. So in modern concepts, you can say this guy designed a private city. Designed it actually with a central park and a gardens feature in the middle. You have these ring streets. We were seeing ring streets earlier, didn't we? Yeah? Ring design for transportation. Ring design for transportation, Washington DC. It's the Green Belt. Yeah? Then they have cycle works, engineering, jam factory, boot factories. This is actually outlining before the New York zoning law came in place. How lot sizes are defined, what kind of uses are going to be on the lot. He defines areas of different land uses, separating work from living. Not anymore the classical, you have your shop on the first floor and you live upstairs. No, manufacturing units. A crystal palace for leisure and entertainment. Today we would call that going to the mall. Societal issues here, lots of health issues in London at that time, and he designs this with the idea it's a network of garden cities. One central city in the middle, on 12,000 acres, 58,000 people. He calculated the maximum amount of people living there. Kaboom! Mind-blowing. With satellite cities around, connected with streets and railroads. This is before individual cars were actually accessible for our residents.
What year was this, did you say?
1902, if I'm not completely mistaken. Ebenezer Howard, The Vision of Garden City. I have a copy if you want to take a look at that. So, did this diagram only, plan must depend upon site selected. Well, he's an accountant. What do accountants do? Numbers. So this guy ended up actually in building 2. This one, here, Berlin, Garden City, and Letchworth. By the way, this is actually Greater London. They pretty much swallowed it. I spare you with Google Maps and all that. But the idea is central city, garden city, satellites. We have it all over the place in the US, the suburbs. I had the pleasure to be in Singapore in 2003, school trip, and they're putting new towns, so-called new towns in place. Transit station, retail shopping around it, and fun, 300,000 people. Following that concept. 300, 1 unit. City of Fort Lauderdale and compactment. I can share pictures, but another time. All right. Then the book tells you guys actually a different story. This is US now. Redburn, New Jersey. And the book is very detailed about who are the architects, and even talking about Edward Moses for reconstructing New York City and all this. Not going to ask any fashion, any designer names. This is still cruising around to give you the idea. This stuff really happened, and it's in place. Redburn comes in the idea with the so-called garden city and the garden city movement, which then evolves into the city beautiful movement. Because it's beautiful garden, beautiful city. Out of the beautiful city movement, 50-some years later, you can actually say we moved into smart growth and then new urbanism, because they pick on details from each other. Well, technically, the younger guys picking old examples. So, pattern here. Larger street, major connectors, separate units, but here, this is interesting, they actually implemented park structures. Imagine you walk out of your house, you have a shared sidewalk into a park structure down there. Florida, this would be the community lake. Something like this. Very interesting concept. This is the setup in color concept as well. Some retail functions, some city functions here, residential, but clearly showing all the green as green space. Las Olas, 17th Street, all this could be ocean, intercoastal. Huh? We value water functions maybe differently than Park in New Jersey. Huh? Oh. Actually, spare the time, I have it. If you Google Redburn, New Jersey, you can actually come here. So now you have here some commercial strip, Panera Bread, some infrastructure. And if you play a little bit funky with your PowerPoint, this is the original plan overlay.
Oh, wow.
I'm not really good in Photoshop. PowerPoint does transparency, but you can see this kind of pattern coming in. Again, not to scale, not perfect, but it gives you the idea. This is constructed. Someone had the vision, the idea to create better urban space, better living. Yeah? What do you read with commercial advertisement right now for, oh, let's move in this apartment tower versus this condominium tower, better amenities here, bigger pool there, parking included, something like this just earlier. Any idea what that is? This is not San Francisco. Cincinnati. Yeah? Streetcars. The reason why I present this as a streetcar, because the book is really interesting about streetcars. Yeah? Numerous stories about, I think, the City Line conspiracy back then in Detroit or Chicago, I don't remember, where they bought up the streetcars and they took them out of business to have the automobile chime in. But I brought this up from Cincinnati because Cincinnati decided at a certain time that they are going to get rid of their streetcars and even those cable buses and put blacktop and concrete over the streets. Yeah, and even ripped out those rails. And then just a few years ago, they actually put back in everything to have modern streetcars, more as a tourist in the inner urban city part, not yet connecting huge employers like the hospitals or the university. We will take another look at Finley Market when we talk about urban renewal, because this is an amazing story. This is one of the most crime-infested FBI warned about neighborhoods in the early 2000s. When I moved to Cincinnati in 2006, yeah, I was told that is the neighborhood you don't want to walk during daylight without anyone locally that knows people. In 2001, 2002, they had street fights, riots in the street, state of emergency. Don't need to go into details. Not a great neighborhood. Yes, please.
When is this from? This picture?
I Googled that one. I don't have that picture myself. I don't. I was looking for Finley Market pictures yesterday evening. I couldn't find them. iCloud destroyed my life. Fairly recent. The Cincinnati Bell Connector is. I drove the first time 2 years ago with Irma. So fairly recent when you look at 50 to 100 years of development. Finley Market is in the north side of the neighborhood called Over the Rhine. It's the highest brewery density, I would say, right now in the US by neighborhood. Huge parts. Sam Adams brews in Cincinnati in that neighborhood. Was considered the most vibrant neighborhood by the American Planning Association just recently again. So over 15 to 20 years, a complete change. Through entrepreneurship, through food and drinks. Quick shout out at my friend Conrad, who actually teaches at the University of Cincinnati. He found this slide instead of a timeline. So instead of actually just saying, you know what, I found the Earl, this is his whole blog thing. He does a lot of stuff in the Netherlands. So he's an urban designer, so different ideas. Yes,
Thank you.
What I really like about this one is it shows the different constructed cities. This is Redburn. In a timeline, the walking score down here. Then we have the streetcar coming in, the electric streetcar, and then the privatized car. Yeah? And there's a difference here on how they dealt with the suburbs and how they dealt with urban development. I can share the link with you guys so you can actually look that up in a better way. But again, the reason why I have this here is also for the timeline. We are in Redburn, now we're going to Levittown. Levittown, they actually have a web page. This is really cool. Suburban cartoon, yeah? Downtown, now you live down here in suburbia and have your own little home. Was interesting concept. Actually, father and sons built a whole town. They kind of remanufactured part of the homes and put them together. So, quick run through to tease you guys. Designed for a population of 70,000 people, completed in 57. Post-World War II, again, infrastructure was in place or is about to be built, interstates, individual cars are available. We're talking about land, labor, and capital. Capital is available because of federal funding programs that allow housing and your own loan. Huge impact on land development. Before, in between, after. This was revolutionary back then because everyone could afford these homes. Pre-manufactured. If I look at this is the same pattern I see all over the places of Florida nowadays, in residential single-family homes. So, replication of what was successful. Small little homes, different layouts, different setups. You pretty much decided what kind of setup you want. So we're in Florida. Have you heard that concept before? Decide what setup you want and pick it. Give you a few slides. Design cities. Give you an international experience. Brasilia. Completely design architectural design rules over the function of living space. Versus, this is Le Corbusier. Fun guy. Look it up on Thanksgiving or Christmas break. Swiss-born French architect. Fantastic guy. Different ideas. This is Paris. Remember when I talked about the Garden City and the idea of demolish the great city to rebuild the great city into new things? The Garden City idea was a prototype. Le Corbusier put those towers up. This is Paris. Eiffel Tower is here. He literally said, you know what? The big city needs to have a change in lifestyle and in density. And how do you do density as an architect? You build the towers. We had the slide very early today. Single family home versus towers. Is that livable space? Depends. If you have a valet parking and you walk to the beach in South Beach, but not necessarily in the capital city of France. That is the beach missing. So the other example is completely designed from scratch administrative town in Chandigarh. It's an Indian region. That's as far as I give you guys a hint. Rebuild Paris, meanwhile build hundreds of thousand people cities in other continents. This guy also did like 6-lane highways on bands spinning around the Empire State Building and stuff like this. Fascinating. When you open up your idea to urban design, Le Corbusier is one of the names you will get across. All right. Sunway City, Malaysia. This used to be, and the reason why I present this is rehab work. This used to be a mining site. This used to be a copper mining area. They put industrial manufacturing on there, hotels and private theme park, another hotel. This is a wave pool. This is not the thing you see at the Margarita Hotel. This is 100 times the size. And then you can see housing. And the reason why I present this is because I present housing. So this is the wave pool with a light rail going around. Yeah, this is the light rail. And this is on top of the hotel here in that area. Please note, this is 2003. They have tennis courts on top of the buildings. Private city, private investment. These are the townhomes across the street. Yes, they look that crappy. That's a standard term for crappy material. I keep telling students, you know, you're going to leave legacy sometime. If you do real estate development, even as property management, you are leaving impressions and experience. This was just awful to watch and see. And all those homes are barred with gates. Not safe. 80,000 people. This area is 80,000 people.
This is the private sector.
Yeah. Private side, privately developed, and then Kuala Lumpur here is these are not the towers, but that's the Kuala Lumpur idea. All right. Let's see if this works. Oh, my computer in the office works faster. So this is Google Maps as current you can get, to give you an idea. To give you an idea about scale, this stretch right now, here, this stretch, or let's say this stretch, is about a mile. And you're here in Kuala Lumpur, across your globe. Huh? That's not the reason why I have this up. Our famous planned cities. This is actually a footprint. Yeah, we're not using it right now. This is actually a footprint which is in a textbook. You wonder, hey, what's going on? Page 112. Plan for Seaside, Florida. What is Seaside, Florida? Someone will ask. It's an example in the book about a planned neighborhood, planned city. Looks nice. If you zoom out, you have a plaza function here. You have certain geometric points diverting from there. We had this before. And then you have all these little neighborhoods attached to it. Let's see if it's probably not going to switch it into 3D because it says it wants to have Google Chrome. Seaside, Florida. Any movie fans out here?
Is it from the Truman Show?
What?
The Truman Show?
The Truman Show. Yeah? Yeah, this works. This is where they did the Truman Show.
Whoa.
Yeah? Remember, he runs over there into the one building and sees people in the elevator disappearing? Yeah. So, same layout we had in the textbook. Yeah? And you can go to Seaside Pavilion, and you can see, and this is where they had the scene where they sit down and his father reappears and all that. Completely constructed from scratch with certain ideas and visions as a new city. And people like it. Huh? Oh. Other famous planned cities in Florida. Remember when I said for Levittown you could pick your design, choose one of the 4 you want? Ever been to Orlando?
Yes.
A little bit north of Orlando?
North Orlando?
Mm-hmm.
I live there.
You ever heard of another place called Celebration?
Yes, that's out where. That's bizarre.
When it comes to celebration,
It's just really expensive.
it changes to men.
Yeah, there's a top concentration. It's like a little.
Water features and a celebration mile, major corridors, park features all over the place, green space if not the golf course surrounding. This is the best way to buffer a zone. First gated community I've seen was in Malaysia. Whole golf course around it. No? You can see everyone who wants to come to your house at midnight, you can see them coming 5 holes away. No? So-
That's the first week thing that ever happened? Or like,
What?
the first week community you saw in Malaysia?
Yeah, they're all over the place like this. This is how you protect your property. You build a golf course around it.
But isn't that like everywhere?
Well, I saw it the first time in 2003. Grew up on a different continent, really. But again, take a look at how this is structured. And then Celebration was famous for, you pick a specific house layout and you change the coloring of the facade and some interior. But you will have pretty much 4 different types. And you actually had to apply for it. Not everyone was allowed to move in at the beginning. There's actually 2 or 3 really great books written about this. Really interesting movements in terms of, is this actually socially justifiable? In terms of housing and all that. All right? Well, I thought this could be an interesting thing because the book talks about examples and then you're like, okay, where is this actually? All right. This comes to the concept of PUD, planned unit development. So I deal with this a little bit as we talk about large development, let's say in the villages here in Florida. And PUD is also a concept we use in zoning, planning law, regulatory functions. Yeah? So in 2 weeks we're going to start with regulatory functions. And PUD is known for its own zoning district. So everything that I kind of roughed up here in the red line is its own little legal community, legal entity within another city. Because you pretty much approve me as a PUD, I can write this on 5 pages or 500 pages. Believe me, I write it in 5 to get some wiggle room. And then I basically say, here, this is what I want to see. There's some retail or auto part shop. This is future transit-oriented development. If my numbers are not working out, my population is not working out, and my whole PUD is not working out, this is still future transit-oriented development. Because I need the density to run TOD. Yeah? Phase 2 never happened. See you in 10 years. I have my own PUD. I have my own constitutional policing right to govern. Yeah? So, and incentives? Oh yeah, a lot. Still criticized. All right. So, what are factors for residential development? In general, coming up with 2 or 3 more slides that we're done for tonight. Huh? If I look at today's needs, if I look at markets, potential forecasting of trends in my data, I need to understand what is the niche I'm looking at. What's the segment I'm interested in? That's the reason why I repeat this here. Lifestyle stages of life. A 25-year-old has different ideas than the 55-year-old. The 25-year-old just finished grad school and is happy in the first job, real salary-based job. 55-year-old in Florida might retire already, second time. Huh? So, was that funny or was that internet funny?
It was funny because it was relatable.
Yeah. So there is a meetup group for early retirement starting at 35. Yeah. I got a random invite for that. I'm about 35, so I'm too old for those guys. Existing structures and residents. This is important when we talk about urban renewal. for the time being, tonight we're probably going to kick out urban renewal. Huh? Because if I have old structures in place, old rules in place, if I have buildings from the 70s versus 50s, the 50s I might actually get rid of, the 70s I might rehab. Different investment costs. Huh? Age of the resident. I cannot point out how important that is. Huh? Real estate development and property management in terms of college population. Yes, we can include 50-year-olds in the college population because they're doing a master's degree. It's not necessarily age population and distribution I can see here in the room. Rough guess, 19 to 23. Rough guess. Depending if you're traditional or non-traditional student. Military, non-military, and all that. Yeah? No offense, you look all like below 30. But you get the idea. Yeah? The ex-army guy finished multidisciplinary studies with 28. It's not necessarily what this is ideally considered as college-based housing. Different career tracks. Huh? He's coming. Beat me for that comment. Huh? But again, other levels I have to consider. This comes back to the idea, how much money can you make from your tenants? Yeah? 40-some, 50-some-year-old is different in lifestyle and income level than what you will have right after college or in college. Yeah? Subsidizing housing through programs. Yeah? First-time home buyer. Gives you different 30-year rates.
Isn't it different perks?
All of that. Yeah, we're not going to go too deep into details on this. Ownership versus rent developments. Yeah? And then here again, the willingness to live in specific housing type. Single family versus multifamily apartments. There are folks that love condominiums. 20th floor. Huh? Valet parking. Or park into the garage and take the elevator. Recreational space, 0. Backyard, that balcony that is just about the size of the tables in front of you. Some people don't like that. Huh? Some people think they need an acre as a front yard. Yes, please.
That's me.
That's you? Well, it depends on the climate. You've got to cut the grass for an acre as well, or pay for it. Huh? Again, these are open thoughts that should initiate your thinking when you read this again about residential development, how we evolved over the past 80 to 100 years, particularly in those chapters. There's also the idea of housing tenure. Lands for life. I have friends, they built their homes 45, 50 years ago. Rehab maybe made some changes to it, but they still the original structure they built. I have a friend who said, he's a real estate developer. He lives in every damn unit he's doing. Basically hops every 2 years in a different place. Just for the fun of it, because he says this is the way he stays realistic to his customers. Does custom home remodeling, beautiful stuff, but plans for life. Like Andrew pointed out, 35, 2 kids, married, maybe? No idea yet. Maybe. Plans for life. Renting or owning? No idea. So the reason why I present this is you don't know yet exactly what you want to do. Risk minimization in the idea for your market and for market development also means you need to find out who else does not know and how you actually gain their ideas. What's the demand for housing in the next 10 years? We don't know. Housing market can burst next month. We have another 2008. We don't know. Could stay stable and crazy in the next 5 years. So we'll see. Things you can estimate is, like we did in the first session when you played with census data, This is the percentage of total population of 65 and older, based on the census. So 2020 would be the next part. But you can see there is a specific trend there. So if I have a chance between a decision to make of maybe building a retail unit or retail complex versus assisted living, I might go on the medical side of that in any form. Different cost structure. Also, I plugged it in terms of understanding of census budgets. That's actually a slide for next year, next time. All right. This is the deal. I'm taking out urban renewal from the midterm. And we close tonight. I can post those, you can watch those in between next week or so. So you have been exposed to that. Urban renewal, I will show those, give you those posts, will be specific in the study guide we take out. There's enough material we covered to get you into the idea between the quantitative part of Fred Foggy and my stuff. Historical models, some of the economics that are the mechanisms of those markets. I hope everyone of you, family, friends, is safe from the hurricane. And have a good night. Next week, what we're going to do, I want everyone be here at 6 o'clock. Yeah? Why? Because it's absolutely rude to have such a caliber of guest speaker to come and visit us and give his valuable time for our learning experience, and you guys don't show up and say, around 7:30 I show up for the exam. You ask me about attendance, I make this attendance. I might just say, you know what, if you show up on time for the presentation, I give you bonus points. Or something like this, to make you come on time. I talked to Fred about this, I think he did that last year too. Because again, the timing is, I want to have the guest speaker not into the night, because the last thing I want is someone coming from downtown and teach into the evening. We have a time limit. If the time limit needs to have 2 or 3 more minutes, we can work this out. So 6 o'clock, James is going to be here and gives us a presentation. We talked about a core time of 90 minutes. We do a break of 15. So we might start at 7:45 or we start at 8 o'clock. And the exam is well timed. And again, you will see on the first page your N number alone. So I have no idea who's who for the grading. And if you don't know your N number, you can write your name on the last page. We'll figure it out once points are accumulated. All right, that said, have a good night. Let everyone is safe.